Another week has gone by here in the Mountain East Conference, and man, oh man, what another jam-packed week it was for this conference, both on the men's and women's basketball side here in the Mountain East Conference. And we're going to be talking with two coaches, a double coach edition of MEC Roundup. This is episode 5, and I'm your host, Taylor Kennedy. Thank you all for joining me yet again for another tremendous episode. You can follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7 for all the latest about this podcast. And just follow us on all of our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Go to our new website. Well, not new, but a new design, as some would say. But just go to mountaineast.org and you can find everything going on within this tremendous conference. But let's start here. Let's start on the women's basketball side. And we are pleased to be joined by Glenville State women's head basketball coach, Coach Kim Stevens. Coach, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So how's everything been going for you all so far, Coach? Just how's the season gone? How are you doing? Just walk me through that.
Everything has been pretty smooth considering how rough last year was for us. So it's been nice to get things back in order and have the fans back in the arenas and not have to worry about shutdowns and startups and just be able to kind of get in a routine and a rhythm and have our girls not be sick. So that's been really good to be back into the flow of things.
When you look back at last season, especially with the circumstances that you guys encountered, what's the biggest thing that you can take away from last season and try to apply it to this season? That way, you guys can just keep moving forward.
Just work ethic. I mean, just really being able to be consistent in practice, being able to have everyone there. We couldn't finish games. I think all 4 of our losses last year we lost. We had a lead going into the fourth quarter, and then we would just be absolutely gassed, and we wouldn't be able to score, and we would just blow leads. And so just really emphasizing, never taking our foot off the gas, and just in practice, really just putting the work in, encouraging the girls to get in the gym extra on their own, just because we couldn't do it last year, and it cost us. And so I think we're definitely playing with a chip on our shoulder. Our mentality is a little bit, just a little bit more focused because we didn't have the year we wanted to have last year.
Okay, so again, just talking about last year, I mean, you guys are off to a great start this season, 9-0 to start the season, 5-0 in conference play. When you look at what happened last year, just going back to that, and then now looking at this year, have you seen a different type of enthusiasm from this year's group of girls?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, last year was just, I mean, we had our first team meeting and it was like we were at a funeral. And you feel bad for 18 to 21-year-olds that didn't get to enjoy a summer and they didn't get to enjoy a spring break and they didn't get to be around anyone. And then they come back to school and we're not sure if we're going to have a season and we're all doubtful that we're going to have a season. And then we start and 2 weeks in, we get shut down, and then we go for a month and then we get shut down, and then we go for another month and a half and we get shut down. And so for them, I think a lot of them took it for granted because it was a short season or because we didn't really necessarily know how far or how long the season was going to go. And just because, we had multiple rounds of COVID and we were shut down multiple times in our program. And so we just could never get into the flow of anything. And that's something we talked about heavily in our exit interviews with each individual player of just regained focus. We weren't where we needed to be this year. And I think that they have done a tremendous job of just coming into this season with the mindset of all or nothing.
Well, let's talk about this season. I mean, again, you guys are 9-0 to start the season, and just walk me through this. So where have you seen the biggest growth from this year's team compared to last year's team? I mean, I know you mentioned that your first team meeting last season was almost like a funeral. We talked about the energetic or, the level of consistency, I guess you could say, but just where have you seen this team grow the most?
I just think their mindset and their work ethic is just at an elite level, almost at a level that I have not ever seen before in a team. Just to put it in perspective, we played Fairmont yesterday, and I walked in the gym at 6:55 in the morning, and I had 3 players in the gym shooting on a game day. And they beat me to the gym. They already had the guns up. They already had the lights on, and they were getting shots up. And that's just not something that happens very often. And so I just think that they want it more this year. And so I think they have continuous conversations in their group chat and in the locker room about like, trust the process. We're going to go all in. This is what we need to do. And so their work ethic, I mean, they deserve the success that they get. And we're not always going to be successful. We will take a lot of lumps this season, but they deserve the success because they've worked for it.
When you see those players getting up shots early in the day, I mean, you mentioned right around 7:00 in the morning. I mean, when you see that as a coach, does that just get you ready for the rest of your day? I mean, I would assume that would, but just as a coach, for somebody that's been doing it for a while now, when you see that, what does that make you feel as a coach?
Right. We were playing a very, very talented Fairmont team that day. And I just thought to myself, you know what? If we lose, I can't be too hard on them. They're putting in the work, and they're doing what they need to be doing. They're showing me they care. They're putting themselves in the best possible situation they can put themselves in to succeed. And so I just told myself, if we don't win this game, I'm just going to have to take it on the chin and take the blame for it, because they're doing everything on their end that they need to do. And so absolutely, get your day off to a great start. It makes me feel more confident as a coach going into those games, just knowing that they'll have the confidence that they have put the work in to see the shots fall.
Okay, so let's talk some player personnel. This is my favorite time of the podcast whenever I talk to coaches. But when you look at this group of girls, walk me through this. Who has impressed you the most so far this season?
I think Rashana Stone has had a really, really good year. Her and I talked in our exit interview, and she just said she was disappointed in her year before. And she didn't really think we were going to, not so much she didn't think we were going to have a season, but she knew she could do better. And we had been on her publicly in the front of the team about not being in the gym as much as she should be. And she's been in the gym almost every single day when I walk in. And she's in the gym more than anyone. And she's got the speaker going. And so she's really putting the work in. And I've seen improvement out of her, and which is good to see. And she's fun to watch. And she's a really good leader for our team. She's one of the few players I've ever coached that never, ever takes a play off. In practice, she goes hard all the time, every single day. And that's pretty unique.
When you look at this group of newcomers, I know that, whenever you try and bring in a new group, I should say, it may take some time. Development's going to be there, but the time aspect of it is always imperative. When you look at this group of newcomers you have, what just impresses you about this year's group?
Yeah, it takes a long time for us to develop players, and this is going to sound kind of pathetic, but it almost takes us a calendar or a full season to develop players. Now, our older kids can sometimes get it in a semester, but like Deja Congleton, she's really starting to click for us, and she's a completely different player this year than she was last year, and so is Vendela. And they just needed a year. They needed to get used to the speed. They needed to get used to the conditioning. They needed to get used to how quickly we shoot and how you may not get a shot up for a while and then you may get 6 shots in a row. And so I think our new players from last year are really starting to click. And then our new kids from this year, I'm sure they're frustrated with the way that they are playing. But I have tried to remind Skylar Davison and then Aline, one of our other foreigners, that it takes a while. It takes a while with the style of play. In second semester, once we get into conference and we are in a steady routine of playing Wednesday and Saturday, then things will start to click for them. And that's kind of how it has always been for us, that second semester, our new kids really figure it out, and then we get rolling.
A couple more, and I want to start here. You mentioned earlier that having fans back into the stadium is a tremendous thing to have this season, especially what happened last season with no fans at all, including, not really, but people coming back into the conference tournament. But
right.
When you look at having fans back into the stadiums, just describe the emotion, just to describe the atmosphere now that, people are allowed back in.
It's just great. It is just absolutely great. You talk about feeling for your kids, and you just feel for your kids when they have to play in front of empty arenas. And that's not the end of the world, but it is tough, especially when you ask your kids to play as hard as I ask them to play every single possession. And when they do something great, we do have great bench energy, and I'm very, very proud of that in our program. So our bench was really the noise in all of the gyms last year. But we just had a great kids day versus Fairmont, and it was loud the entire game. And those are just environments you want your kids to be able to play in, because I mean, it's college basketball. All players want to play in front of fans. They all want to hit the big shot. They all want to make the great play and get fans on their feet. And it's just good to have them back, and it's good for our kids to be able to have game day just be a little more special.
And then lastly, when you look at this group this season, what needs to happen for this team to get back to the conference tournament? Well, not back to the conference tournament, back to the conference tournament championship game first off, and then back into the NCAA tournament. Where do you see that leap needs to happen?
We just need to stay consistent. We sometimes have bad clumps of practice. I mean, 3 or 4 days where it's just kind of clear that we're not focused or energized or thrilled to be there, which is normal. It's human nature. And they've been out of school since Christmas, out of class since Christmas or since Thanksgiving. So it's been kind of a grind and a lonely time in Glenville, but we need to, stay sharp consistently in practice. We need to stay hungry. We need to not think that we are better than we are. And we just need to stay with that chip on our shoulder. We need to treat every single opponent the same. We need to treat every game like it's the number one for the number. We need to treat every game like it's a championship game in front of our home crowd. And that's almost impossible to do, but that's what we're going to chase. That's what we're going to try to do. And we're going to try to go on the road and perform just as well as we would at home. And we're going to try to just line them up and knock them down. But it's just the mindset of just being more consistent in practice, listening better, stuff like that. I think we need to tune in on.
Well, Coach, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And it was great talking with you, and best of luck the rest of the way this season.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And that was Coach Kim Stevens from Glenville State. And next we'll be joined by Coach Dwayne Osborne from the University of Charleston, talking about their impressive start to their season so far as well. We just spoke with Glenville State's women's head basketball coach, Kim Stevens. Now let's flip over to the men's side, where we are pleased to be joined by the University of Charleston men's head basketball coach, Coach Dwayne Osborne. Coach, welcome to the program.
Taylor, thanks for having me.
So how's everything been for you guys so far? 7-2 this season. How's everything been?
I mean, we've had some really good moments and we've had some not so good moments. And, I think it's going pretty good. We're a little frustrated probably with where we're at, and feel like we've let a little bit get away from us, even in some of the wins. Just, I think we've been a little bit inconsistent in our play at times. And so I think we are getting better, but we've got a ways to go, like most teams.
You talked about how you guys are not really satisfied with where you're at currently. How do you guys go about fixing that? Is that just a lot of time in the film room, or is that just continuing to get reps out on the practice floor?
That's a great question. I think there's probably a lot of different things that just need to be a little bit better in a lot of different areas. And so to me, it probably is an intangibles type thing. It's not like, oh, we need to rebound the ball better, or it's not a specific category like that so much as it is just, our approach to things, our mindset toward things. That's been a big thing for us this year, is just having the right kind of mindset. And we felt like, maybe our mental approach last year let us down a little bit at key times. And so that's been an area of focus. And so, I'd love to see that just continue to get better. And I think if we can figure out some of these intangible things, I think this team's got a chance to be pretty good.
You guys lost to West Liberty 89-78 last week. And, whenever you look at that game, or just in general with a loss, where do you try and focus on the most? Is it something where you look at different quarters or the different halves, I should say, or is it more of just analyzing the whole thing and then going from there?
Yeah, it's, I think West Liberty, obviously a very good team, and I have a ton of respect for them, their program, their players, Ben. I think for us, West Liberty, one of the things they do well is they kind of deliver these like haymaker knockout blows, and they can hit you with a run. And it really is a differentiator in the game. I felt like they hit us with one of those early in the first half, early in the game. And, I thought our team showed some toughness and resolve. And, we led 48-44 at the half, and we were up with about 15 or 16 minutes to go. They kind of hit us with another one. And, we battled our way back into it. We're down 2 with about 1:20 to go. And I think Bryce Butler, if I remember right, hit a huge 3. And we came down, got fouled, missed 2 free throws, and they scored. And then we had to foul a few times down the stretch. So I think the margin ended up being 10 or 11, but it was a pretty close game there, 2-point game with 1:20 to go. And I think that's a perfect example of what I'm saying about we just needed to be a little bit better in multiple areas. And, sometimes when you lose, the natural thought process is we didn't play very well. When you win, it's like, oh, we played great. And, you come back home and watch the film, and the film is the ultimate truth teller, is what we say. And when we came back home and watched that, it just was really frustrating, just some of the things that, we didn't handle very well. And again, I don't want to take anything away from West Liberty. They put you in some tough situations and things that are tough to handle, but there's also things that we're in control of that we just didn't handle as well as we needed to.
Okay, so we're done talking about the negatives. Let's talk about the positives. Okay, so they're 7-2 this season, and let's talk about those 7 wins. It's also including a win over Fairmont State at your guys' house. So when you look at these 7 wins, what has impressed you the most throughout that stretch?
Well, I think probably the 2 things that stick out to me is we are we're the only team in the league that's in the top 4. So top third of the league in field goal percentage offense and field goal percentage defense. And, my current and former assistants, people that know me well, would say and not be shocked by the thought process that I try to be efficient in every area of my life. How I spend my money, how I spend my time, who I spend those things with, all that kind of stuff. And so for us, we want to be efficient in our approach on both sides of the ball. And so I think, we're doing a pretty good job of that. I'd like to see our defensive field goal percentage get better. But we're moving in a good direction, I think, on that. We started out really poorly, and then, we have been gradually showing some improvement in that area. So that's going to be important. And obviously our field goal percentage offense, we're number 1 in the league, number 2 in field goal percentage defense. And I think the field goal percentage offense thing, I'm pleased with that. Obviously, to be first. The odd thing is I feel like we've been a little bit inconsistent shooting, especially compared to what we did last year. And, I think Isaiah Gable and Keith Williams are 2 of the best shooters in the league. They were top 5 or 6 in the league last year, both of them in 3-point shooting, and neither of them have shot the ball very well to this point. And so we're looking forward to them hopefully getting back in a flow and getting a little bit of a rhythm. Then the other thing I think that we've done pretty well is we've out-rebounded every team we've played so far, all 9 games, and we're about plus 9 or 10 on the glass. And so I think that's been a huge factor for us in having some success early.
Another thing I think for you all, just an outsider's observation, is that you guys have 4 players averaging double figures so far this season through 9 games. You got a guy averaging 14, another guy 12, 12, and 10. So when you look at the guys that are averaging double figures, and then pretty much everybody else, it's pretty much a balanced scoring attack. Is that another area of strength that you guys try and build off of consistently, or is that just something that just happens nightly?
Yeah, great question. I think it's definitely by design. I think it's always harder to beat teams who have 4, 5, 6 ways to get you. One of the things we say is we want to always have 5 people on the court that if they were to double someone else, that person that's left unguarded, they're going to make you pay for that. So we try to recruit that way. We try to do our player development with that thought process in mind. And so, for us, I think last year we had 5 or 6 guys in double figures, maybe 5 guys in a sixth, and maybe even 7th guy at 9.5 points a game. And so we need to get 1 or 2 more guys up a little bit more. And I think if we just start shooting the ball a little bit more consistently, that I think we can do that, and we have that kind of team. And so we are thankful for the depth we have. I think that our depth can play better. And really that's from the top of the roster to the bottom of the roster. And, I think that includes, if you look on our roster page, most people's roster page, that's not just players, that's coaches. I think I've got to do a better job. I felt really bad in the West Liberty game because I felt like I really let my team down and didn't do a great job coaching. And so, I have to figure out a way to be better. And we're going to ask every person in our program to do the same thing.
Okay, so let's talk about a guy that averaged 12 points last season. Now he's increased that number by 2 so far. That's Eddie Colbert. Eddie, just looking at his statistics, it looks like he's improved in a lot of different areas in his game, but especially in the scoring. box as well. Just talk about his growth. How have you seen him grow through these first 9 games, and where do you want to see him continue to grow?
Yeah, I think the biggest growth area is just from experience. He's a third-year player in our program, so I think it's more comfort within the system. I think it's more comfort in terms of knowing what to expect from our opponents and how each of those teams like to play. And, the pace of the game obviously is slowed down for him. And so he's super skilled, can really shoot the ball. And I think, he's been off to a pretty good start as it relates to that. I think for Eddie, the person that is Eddie's biggest enemy is Eddie. And I think his ability to bring a consistent daily work ethic and right approach would take his game to another level. And he has all the tools, all the potential. But, Jim Crutchfield told me one time years ago that potential is the most overvalued word and just thought process when it comes to the game of basketball. It probably applies maybe to a lot of areas. You could take it to other sports, you could take it to the business world, whatever, but potential is just really unmet ability. And so what you want to do is have people maxing themselves out. And we want to do that well. And I think for our team to go where we want to go and try to meet the aspirations that we have, Eddie's one of those guys that's got to do a better job than what he's doing. And that's just kind of the reality, just like I said with myself. I mean, I have to do a better job. Eddie's got to do a better job. And you can throw anybody else's name in there on our team that you want. If we're going to do what we want to do, we got to be better.
So when you talk about what you guys want to do to get better, obviously I'll end with this. How do you guys go about doing that throughout the rest of the season? What is that, or have you figured it out yet? And if so, how do you guys go about fixing that to get back to the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just really about, we're at a time now, you've been grinding it out through a semester. Basketball is a long sport. Football plays when they get here in the fall and they're done before the semester ends. Baseball doesn't start playing games until February, and, they'll play a little bit after the semester. But basketball is a tough sport because it goes pretty much the whole year. From the time you get here, you're working out. And, so they did conditioning and weight training and all that stuff. Then you practice for 3 or 4 weeks, and now you've gotten 10 games or so in before the break. And so we're kind of at the halfway point, and sometimes just the monotony of that, can cause a team to get in a rut. And I don't think we're in a rut by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the Christmas break allows you, a week or so, 10 days, maybe, depending on your situation, to try to just renew your focus and give you a little bit of a breather and look at things and say, okay, how can I be better? How can I improve myself just a little bit? If everybody improves themselves a little bit, I think that it'll add together to be something that's a significant amount. I think it'll give us a chance again to do what we're trying to do. And really, that's all we can ask for, is have the opportunity to be in a position to do those things. And so I really feel like, we are in control of what we're doing. And, I've been a part of programs before, part of teams before, where you have to play really well and then hope for some help a lot of the time. And we're in a situation where we can kind of control those things, is what we believe, at least. And so, I'm confident that we have some experience and leadership on our team that's going to allow us to come back after the break, hopefully with a little bit of a renewed sense of purpose and focus on what we're trying to do. And hopefully we can all take it up a level.
Well, Coach, thank you for your time, and best of luck the rest of the way this season.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all your work, man.
Absolutely. That will conclude episode 5 of MEC Roundup. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7 for all the latest about this podcast. Also, follow the Mountain East Conference on all of our social media pages from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also, subscribe to our YouTube as well. And also go on our website from mountaineast.org, where you can find our newly designed website. Oh man, it looks good. Just saying. That's just a biased perspective. But thank you all for listening. Stay safe, and I'll catch you all next time on episode 6.